In today's edition of things VA disability benefits practitioners already knew and probably a lot of veterans have already figured out, the VA is getting TDIU claims wrong at an astonishing rate. This is according to a recent Office of Inspector General report, or OIG report, posted to the VA OIG's website on July 17th, 2024. But as I said, if you've been doing this line of work for any period of time, or you've been working on your own cases, you might have understood TDIU to be a very tricky subject. And true to form, the VA can't seem to figure it out either. So let's talk about the contents of this report and some of the findings. First though, what I really want to talk about real quickly is TDIU. I've made other videos on this before, but what TDIU is kind of an interesting program inside the ratings decision process where if a veteran has high enough ratings but doesn't get to 100% and their service-connected disabilities are actually keeping them from working, the veteran may be entitled to total disability based on individual unemployability. And what this means is that the VA will actually pay the veteran at a 100% rate, even if the numbers don't add up to 100. And this is meant to kind of compensate for the fact that the VA rating table and the combined ratings table and how VA math works is weird. And sometimes the full scope of disabilities and the true impact of disabilities don't actually come through in the raw number that gets developed on a rating schedule. So TDIU can come in and make up that gap and get a veteran up to 100 so they can support themselves. TDIU is kind of complicated because it's not a separate claim, even though the form you file for it is called a claim form. It's actually a rating itself, right? Just like 10, 20, 30%, TDIU is a rating as well. So when the effective date holds is kind of a tricky thing to figure out, which is what the OIG report gets into. Now, what the VA OIG did was they took about 200 TDIU cases, both denials and grants, from mid-2022 to mid-2023, and they looked at them and said in about 75% of the cases, the VA got it wrong. And they either got it wrong in such a way that benefited the veteran, or they got it wrong in such a way that hurt the veteran. In a lot of cases, these involved effective dates. I told you TDIU is complicated. Effective dates with TDIU is also kind of a complicated subject. And the courts of appeals have actually issued guidance on this about 15 years ago in a case called Rice v. Shinseki. And in this case, they said, hey, TDIU is not an actual claim. It's a rating the VA must consider when there's evidence in the file that the veteran cannot work. What does this mean? Well, the VA is going to make you file a VA Form 8940 so that they can do the proper workup on TDIU when the facts raise the issue of TDIU, meaning that somewhere in the file it looks like you can't work because of your service-connected disabilities. Now, the VA will either send this form to the veteran if they spot the issue themselves, or you can send it in, the veteran can send it in with your claims file when you apply for VA disability. Either way works. What's the issue here in this OIG report? Well, surprising no one, it's the effective date issue. The VA will often claim that the effective date of a TDIU claim is the date that they receive the VA Form 8940, but Rice v. Shinseki said that that's not the case, and it's a harder calculus that determines when the veteran first raised the issue of their service-connected disabilities being so bad that they can't work. And that might come in the form of a C&P exam, it might come in the form of VA medical records. You just don't know where it comes from necessarily each and every time. So it really takes a detailed scrutiny of the file, at least when it comes to us or the VA, to figure out when that date is. And I can tell you, TDIU effective date issues are probably a significant portion of our appeals to the Board of Veterans Appeals because the regional office struggles with this so much. They still don't understand how to apply Rice v. Shinseki consistently. Some decision review officers do, some RVSRs do, but quite frankly, it is so inconsistent across the board. And I think that there are probably a couple things in here, both OIG recommendations that make a lot of sense, such as better training, better accountability, great, all great buzzwords. We'll see if it actually happens. More scenario-based training where they give examples and try to test people on those. Familiarizing VSRs and RVSRs with the TDIU process. Again, all great training recommendations, but the one thing that OIG doesn't really talk about are the metrics by which VA employees are graded. And what I mean by that is that, and I've said this to a number of my clients, there are production requirements at the VA. So if you're a VA employee, you get credit for how much work you do, and that's how they rate you. you get a point or 2 points or whatever. I don't know the exact numbers for how it works for doing certain tasks on a file, no matter how long those tasks actually take you. So, and if I'm wrong on this, tell me in the comments. If you're a VA employee who knows different than me, I'd love to hear from you. But my point is this: if you grade somebody on how fast they complete a task, you're not incentivizing them to do a thorough job. Now, why is this important? Finding the information you need for TDIU is something that takes a lot of digging through the paperwork. So if you have a claims file that is 200, 300, 400 documents long and medical records that are thousands of pages long, and it's not terribly well organized, which it never is, it's going to be really hard for a VA employee to spot that issue and raise it and process it correctly. Again, they're not given time to do detailed, deep dives, thorough, hours-long analyses of the file, which is something that we do when a client comes to us and wants an appeal. What the VA should be thinking about is how do we incentivize more thorough assessments of the files themselves. And I think that these TDIU issues, along with a lot of other issues, would really begin to resolve themselves, maybe around the margins, maybe not in totality. Again, there's no magic bullet for fixing the VA, and anyone that says there is, it doesn't know what they're talking about. So what's the practical advice to give you? If you're a veteran and your service-connected disabilities have resulted in you being unable to work, file that VA Form 8940 with whatever documents you're filing to file a claim. That way, at least the VA has that, and they begin the process of assessing TDIU, and you'll get a potentially better effective date. Now, if you've received recently a VA decision that denies TDIU, or you think the effective date on the TDIU is wrong, reach out to us and maybe we can help, because like I said, these things are complicated, but please keep in mind, if you were granted TDIU 8 years ago, chances are there's not much we can do to help. It's all about taking a decision that's less than a year old and really looking at that and not sleeping on your adverse decisions, not sleeping on your bad decisions, or not sleeping on the VA's bad decisions, and doing something about it, whether it's hiring an attorney such as myself, an agent, an accredited claims agent, a veteran service officer, or working through the process yourself, as long as it's not a claims consultant, an unaccredited claims consultant, because they're garbage. Look through this process, and if you get a bad decision you disagree with, it's not a tomorrow problem, it's a begin working on today problem, because you only have 1 year to appeal those decisions, whether it's filing a supplemental claim, higher level review, or Board of Veterans Appeals decision, to get that best possible effective date, right? Don't sleep on the decisions, file the 8940 early on, and if you have a problem with this, reach out, give us a call. Let me see if we can help you. Until next time, take care.